Potter.
Scottie B going to work in the paint.
Eastern Conference Final. New NBA champion. And it's a team from Toronto, Canada. We, the North, are now we, the champions.
What is going on, Raptors Nation? It is Luca here back with the Raptors Nation podcast. Hope you're all doing well. The sun is shining. We're starting to get some nice weather, which is great. In today's pod, I'm going to talk to you about the latest out of Raptors land. We're going to take a look at Scottie Barnes playing through an injury, playing hurt, it seems. We're going to take a look at the Raptors lottery odds as the Raptors getting closer and closer to locking up the 7th best lottery odds for the upcoming draft. And then we're going to get into a little bit of draft talks, just some early preliminary draft talk. Of course, we're going to know where the Raptors are situated in the draft after the NBA draft lottery, which is going to be taking place next month. So still some time before then. And yeah, we're going to dive right into this one, guys. Do me a solid, drop a like on the video, sub to the channel if you are new for more pods just like this. And you can find this pod wherever you get your favorite podcast, Apple, iTunes, and Spotify. All right, so let's first get into it with Scottie Barnes, who has been playing hurt, and his production as of late offensively has been pretty bad. Scottie Barnes in his last 3 games, guys, going back to the March 30th game against the Sixers, put up 9 points on 4 for 12 shooting, 0 of 2 from 3. April 1st against the Bulls, put up 9 points again on 4 for 14 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3. And then this past Raptors game, April 3rd against the Blazers, Barnes had 5 points on 2 for 8 shooting, 0 for 2 from deep. He logged 28 in the Sixers game, 24 in the Bulls game, and 27 minutes in the Blazers game. So his offensive production has fallen off a cliff. You can even take this back further. You can clearly see the offense hasn't been there for Barnes. The shooting woes have been there. That 3-point percentage has fallen off a cliff for the season now. Barnes is shooting at 26.3%. And remember, that was an area that you wanted to see the very worst what it was last season, which was 34.1%. So it tanked. This is the worst 3-point shooting season of his career. And then the field goal percentage, too, is very, very concerning. 44%, which that is the worst of his career as well. So you look at it, I know there's been a lot of questions about Scottie. You wanted to see him really elevate his game and look like a solidified all-star. But this 4th season, we haven't really seen it offensively. Defensively, he has looked very good, and he could very well be possibly a nominee for an all-defense team. I don't think he's going to get it just because of how bad the Raptors' record is. So defensively, he has really stepped up with the steals, the blocks, but the offense has really declined. The shooting splits especially. I'm not going to get too critical of him because let's take the circumstances here. They're not really good. You still wanted to see Scottie Barnes dominate, right? You still wanted to see him kind of end the season on a high so you have something to look forward to going into next season and basically something to just make you feel good about the whole situation. I know BI is coming into the equation. I already said I think this is BI's team. He's going to be the number 1 option, although Scottie has been positioned to be the guy, face of the franchise. I think BI is going to take that chain from him fairly quick. We'll see it early next season. But you wanted to see Scottie look like his all-star self. You know, you look at a guy like Cade Cunningham, who has really blossomed this season. Evan Mobley's had a tremendous season. For Scottie, again, defense aside, he has really been standout in that regard. The offense, it feels like he's regressed, and that's not what you want to see, especially in some of these games where Scottie is playing against some very bad competition. You want to see him dominate. So then that leads into the reality and why I am cutting Barnes some slack and not being overly critical. again, the circumstances. But then the other part of it too is Scottie Barnes is playing hurt. I mean, his right hand has been bothering him for a while. Per TSN's Josh Lewenberg. Darko said that about Barnes' hand. And then his recent shooting woes start to make sense. 41% from the field, 24% from three since March. And Darko said, if you're trying to shoot the ball with three fingers, it changes your shot. He says it needs rest to heal, and he'll need to use offseason to work on shooting. So then that starts to make more sense about like, okay, that explains Scottie Barnes' recent terrible run here of just shooting woes. But then the other part of it too, and Josh said the obvious question, which is an obvious question asked by Sports Illustrated's Aaron Rose. Okay, like if Barnes isn't playing well, he's struggling dearly right now, and his hand is bothering him, why isn't he sitting out like the other guys, like the other starters? And then Darko said pros and cons both ways, cite Scottie's competitiveness and early into last season. Learning how to play deeper in the season is important to us. And then, Blake Murphy put another quote out saying from Darko saying, you guys can see he's even struggling dribbling out there. So basically what's going on here, it's the obvious thing that's going on here. Scottie Barnes, he's got to hit 65 games to be in consideration for the All-NBA honors. And we know if he makes All-NBA, the Supermax kicks in. There's a lot of money at stake here. That is why Scottie Barnes is going out there hurt and playing. And the organization, they're not going to be the ones to strip that away from him, because I get it. Things can be murky. But then this is where I'm going to say what I'm about to say. And I put out this take on X. It doesn't make sense when you consider the fact that Barnes is playing hurt and his production has dipped. It has fallen off a cliff. I get it. There's a lot of money at stake. But here's the reality. There is no shot Scottie's making All-NBA. And at this point, both sides got to realize and accept that Scottie going out there playing hurt, possibly risking further injury while he's struggling as much as he is, isn't smart. And it doesn't appear to be worth it. Like if he was going out there dominating these games, putting up killer numbers, and he was hurting, keep letting him play. But he's playing poorly. Like not only is he playing poorly, but the All-NBA is out of reach. So it's like you got to almost put that stubbornness aside, and both sides got to kind of accept their fate in this situation, because I don't think it's wise. Like it comes to a point where I get what's at stake. It's a lot of money. It's hard to say no, but at this particular moment in time, it's not doing you any good by continuously going out there playing hurt, and your production has not looked good at all. It's almost hurting him in this sense. And at that point, like that's when there's got to be an understanding on both sides. So that's where I'm at with this. At this point, they're not going to do that. I mean, they went this long by playing it out like this. Scottie, I think, has to play in 3 out of the final 5 games for the Raptors. So he'll sit out too, but like we're not going to see him obviously shut down at this point. So that's basically why Scottie Barnes is going out there playing hurt. Scottie's got to know too at this point, man. Like you're not going to get All-NBA. I know you're not going to be the one to eliminate you from that and say like, I'm not going to play anymore. Even if you have like a 0.1% chance you're going to go, that does show his competitiveness, but you also got to be smart too in this situation. So let me know your thoughts. What do you make of all of this? Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Let me know your comments down below. Scottie Barnes is questionable for the Raptors game tonight, so we'll see. Like I said, he can miss a couple more while still being eligible. We'll see which ones the Raptors decide to choose. It would be wise for him to sit out tonight, I would think, second night of a back-to-back, but we'll see what happens. All right, guys, and then the bigger thing at play here, of course, what's been the biggest talking point of this team since the midway point, since the trade deadline, the Raptors draft lottery odds. And at some point, it looked like maybe San Antonio was going to pass them in the reverse standings. But what really helped the Raptors was their recent stretch of the Spurs beating the Nuggets, who played their bench guys with Westbrook. And then the Raptors, they just lost the Blazers. So it is looking pretty good right now, but the Raptors are still not out of the clear. Still a chance the Spurs can pass them, but the magic number is now 2. So basically what that means is any combination of Raptors losses plus Spurs wins that equals 2, the Raptors got the 7th best odds. The Raptors can't fall lower than the 7th best odds if that happens. So basically, if the Raptors lose 2 more games and the Spurs lose out, Raptors are safe. If the Raptors do a bunch of winning, but the Spurs win here, then they're safe too. The most ideal approach is going to be the Raptors losing 2 more, because I don't think the Spurs are going to win anymore, just looking at their schedule. And when you look at the Raptors, you would assume this game against the Pistons is going to be an L, and then they need 1 more. And that's where it could get interesting. Like, assuming the Raptors, like, let's just assume the Spurs, they lose out. Let's assume the Raptors lose against the Pistons. Then the Raptors would need 1 more L to lock it up. And you look at their schedule, Brooklyn, and theoretically, the Raptors still have a chance to get the 6th best odds, which is occupied by Brooklyn, but that's a long shot at this point. The Nets are 3 games clear of the Raptors in the reverse standing. So the Nets are going to do whatever it takes to lose that game. Hornets, Raptors are going to win that game. And then comes the interesting part. April 11th, is that where the second Raptors loss comes in against the Mavericks? It could be, because if AD plays that game, I think the Mavericks win. The Mavericks, they're in the play-in right now, so these games matter to them. So that's where I think the Raptors' second loss comes from. So if they lose against the Pistons tonight, they lose against the Mavericks, the Spurs lose out, Raptors are safe. But if they somehow win, they would then need to lose the game against the Spurs, because there's an April 13th matchup to close out the season against the Spurs. And that could very well be for the odds if the Raptors haven't clinched the 7 best odds by then. So that last game of the season could have major draft lottery implications. And there's no tiebreaker when it comes to the draft lottery odds. Basically, lottery ties are settled by a random draw, so you don't want it to come down to that. So yeah, we'll see what happens down the stretch here. There's still draft lottery implications on the line, but with the Raptors losing to the Blazers, the Spurs beating the Nuggets the other day, I feel a lot better about the Raptors' chances now to lock this up before that matchup against the Spurs. I think they're going to lose against the Pistons and the Mavericks, if I had to guess. But if they somehow start winning these games, then you fall into trouble. And that last game can mean something. So we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't come down to that. But right now, you look at the Tankathon, Raptors 7 best odds. Like I said, it's going to be awfully tough to catch Brooklyn for the 6 best odds. And then Philly's basically got the 5th best odds on lock. I mean, Philly's not going to win another game. They've lost 10 in a row. They have literally out-tanked everybody. I think the Jazz and the Sixers have done the best job here in terms of their tanks. Like, we have seen some shameless tanking. And of course, the Raptors half in, half out approach. I spoke a lot about that in previous pods. I'm not going to get into that. You already know how I feel about it. But the reality is the Raptors, they find themselves where they find themselves. And at this point, just lock up the 7th best lottery odds. I'd be pretty pissed if the Raptors fumble again and they drop another spot. Lock into the 7th best lottery odds and then pray at that point, because they'll have a 32% chance to jump into the top 4 and a 7.5% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. So, yeah, we'll see what plays out here. Again, the Raptors are in action tonight against the Pistons. All right, guys, let's wrap up today's pod by just some early draft talk. So we're going to go with the notion that the Raptors are going to have the 7th pick. Of course, you're hoping that's not the case and they get some luck and they move on up. What's important to note is the last time the Raptors had the 7th best lottery odds, they actually moved on up to draft Scottie Barnes. So that's really good to know. But let's just assume Raptors get the number 7 pick. Who are some guys they can take out of that slot? I've gone more into detail and in depth about this on my personal channel. Go check that out. I've been doing some draft content over there. So there's a couple of names that I've profiled. It all depends, obviously, on who's still available. Yakachonis could be the Raptors guy if, he's there. He's kind of fallen his stock a little bit, but he's still a very slick, shot creator. He's got great passing ability, and he's able to score in a variety of different ways. The Raptors could look at Yakachonis as a guy who pans out in a big way, and he's definitely shown enough that he is going to be, I think, a top 10 selection. He's very crafty with the basketball. When you look at him, his athleticism and quickness are some concerns, but in terms of like his ability to find his teammates, score the basketball, carve up defenses, I think Yakachonis could get a lot of consideration by the Toronto Raptors. Another player, Trey Johnson, guy who can space the floor, can shoot it. I think he can immediately come in and make an impact, having him next to a guy like BI and Scottie just to provide some more shooting and, not have such a stagnant offense. I think a guy like this helps. He really ended his college campaign on a strong note. So that's another guy. Derek Queen, if the Raptors are looking big men now, he's more of like an offensive orientated big. Think like Şengün to a lesser degree. I know like people have fun with the whole Jokic comparison to a really, really lesser degree, but just the way he's got like guard handles for a big man, he's very fun to watch. And, he's a guy who could probably go as high as 6 these days, or like maybe even 5. Like he really had a nice run with Maryland. He had that buzzer beater. And he just got like these guard-like handles. He dazzles with like his spin moves, crafty finishes, and I think he can end up being a nice player for whoever lands him. And if he's still there at 7, that's an option the Raptors can go in. Malawak, I think, would absolutely be the Raptors guy, but I think with his strong March Madness run here, like I see Malawak as a top 5 pick. I don't think he's going to fall to 7 anymore. I'm going to mention him for the sake of this video. I mean, at the very least, he's going to be a tremendous defensive guy. Like his rim protecting, just his ability to block shots. He's such a compelling prospect here. He's just such a raw talent that the sky's the limit. So I think for Malawak, he would just be a huge get for the Raptors. Defensive minded, a guy who can really be this team's anchor defensively, 7'2". He would be just a very nice fit, I think, with the Raptors. And this would be such a Raptors pick. I think if Malawak is still there somehow, this is absolutely going to be the Raptors pick. So we'll see what happens, but those are just some names. Malawak, Queen, Yakachonis, Johnson. And then Jeremiah Fears is another name that has really been linked to the Raptors a lot. He's that dynamic guard. He's fearless. He's a 3-level scorer. He finds so many different ways to score. He's got that, quick handle. I think he can be a very big get as well. Again, this is more so if the Raptors are looking for that guard, more so too with the Yakachonis pick. If they want to look for like their point guard of the future here, they're not entirely sold on IQ. I think the Raptors end up going big. That's their need, but they could also go based on who they really like and who they see as like being the next big thing and a part of this team's future. And Fears could be that guy. Like I really liked how he ended his collegiate career, just like that twitchy attack style that he's got. He comes through as such a big time clutch scorer. I love his confidence. And his decision making is a little shaky at times, but overall, I think he's just got that good feel for the game and he can score in a big way when he's feeling it. So that's another guy, but I've seen mock drafts pin him as high as number 7 to the Raptors, and then other mock drafts having him fall outside of the top 10. So that's just another name to give all of you. But who are you thinking at this point? What are some prospects that you got your eye on for the Toronto Raptors at this number 7 slot? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. And that is going to conclude today's pod. Appreciate all of you for tuning in. Be sure to drop a like, sub to the channel for more, and leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your favorite podcast. That is it for me, guys. Luke signing off. Thanks for watching. I will catch you all again in the next one.